Good afternoon and welcome to the Chatham Board of Selectmen's June 30th, 2020 meeting. This is remote participation only. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, please notify me. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 23rd, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Chatham Board of Selectmen is being conducted via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 1-508-945-4410, conference ID 1340208-476#, or join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. Despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide for real-time access, and will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. So first off, we're going to take a roll call of the Board of Selectmen, but first I want to ask any remote participants to mute your audio and disable your video until the appropriate time when you're either speaking or want to speak or are on the agenda. Thank you. Roll call of the Board of Selectmen. Peter Kokolas.
Present.
Dean Nicastro.
Present.
Corey Metters.
Present.
Jeff Dykins.
Present.
And the chair is obviously present. Okay, so a first order of business is to, we have several meeting minutes to approve, and they're June 16th, June 18th, June 23rd, and June 26th. So we'll start in order. Do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes of June 16th, 2020?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
That was Jeff and Dean. Any edits to the Dean? Go ahead.
Yes, to Madam Chair. First on page 7, fourth paragraph, where it says motion by Jeffrey Dykins. The second to last word is, instead of proving, it should say pending.
Okay.
And then on page 10, I want to add a sentence to reflect.
Hold on. Go ahead.
On page 10, I'd like to add a sentence as a separate paragraph to reflect something a comment I made. Right at the bottom, it would be the second to last paragraph, just before the paragraph that begins Dr. Duncanson said, and this is the sentence, Shauna. It was observed that, comma, with... Echo.
Yeah.
Mark or Craig?
Delay and echo.
Okay, I'll start again. It was observed that, comma, with the number of significant construction projects completed or ongoing in recent times, comma, the town should take a pause before proceeding with this project at this time, period. I'll read that back, Shauna. It was observed that with the number of significant construction projects completed or ongoing in recent times, the town should take a pause before proceeding with this project at this time.
Okay. Any others? That's it. Anybody else? Peter.
The only other one I would have, Madam Chair, is on page 9, last paragraph, third to the last sentence, a real nit. Towards the end, where the sentence starts with, he said 1 million in construction, and that would be grants, GRANTS.
Yeah.
All right. Any other edits to the meeting minutes? None? Okay. We'll vote to approve. Corey.
Aye.
Dean.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
Jeff.
Aye.
Chair says aye. So meeting minutes approved 500. Okay. The next meeting minutes are for June 18th, 2020. Do I have a motion to approve?
So
So
moved.
moved.
A second? Okay, we have Dean and Peter. Any edits to this? None? Okay, let's take a vote to approve. Corey,
Aye.
Dean,
Aye.
Peter? Peter? Jeff? Okay, Jeff?
Aye.
And chair says aye, so 500. Okay. Next is the meeting minutes from June 23rd. And motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay.
Peter.
Everybody.
Everybody. Dean and Jeff. Any edits to the none? Okay. We'll take a roll. We'll go around a different way this time. Peter,
Aye.
Dean,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Corey.
Aye.
Chair says aye. All right. A motion to approve the meeting minutes from June 26th.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, any edits? Seeing none, okay, we'll take a roll. Corey,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Dean,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
chair says aye. Okay, thank you. All right. So our next order of business is for public announcements and agenda item requests. I have just a couple of things I'd like to announce, and then I just want to speak to an upcoming agenda item. So I'd like to congratulate Jackie Zebret Long and Nancy Scott for their terms as Chatham's Monomoy Regional School District Committee members. They were voted into office last Thursday. And also for the public's information on our board reorganization last Friday, if you hadn't read it in the Chronicle or seen it. As you can tell, I've been selected to be board chair yet for another year. Peter Kukolis will remain as vice chair and Corey Metters is clerk. And I'd like to thank Dean Nicastro for his service last year as clerk. A meeting agenda item, I just want to give you guys a heads up. Our meetings are becoming increasingly long and I feel that they're somewhat unsustainable. And we have had meetings lasting up to about 4 hours continually for the last several months. I would like the board to consider in an upcoming discussion ways we may be able to conduct our meetings more efficiently and timely. So if you can take some time to either look at other select board meetings or the school committee's meetings and see how they're formatted and planned. I'll be placing an agenda item on our calendar in the next coming weeks for this matter to be considered. Okay. And does the board have any agenda items or public announcements they'd like to make?
Yeah, Madam Chair, Peter.
Sure, Peter, go ahead.
I'd like to make an agenda item. It's really broadening a comment that you made. I think it's an agenda item you previously made. And it has to do with a board discussion and moving towards decisions on town priorities. Not that we don't do it already in some respect. And it's not just a list of capital projects, the way I see it, but priorities that reflect the long-term needs within the community. And wrapped around things like our coastal resiliency, the people, our people, seniors, 365 demographic, that includes housing, jobs, and so forth, infrastructure, and maintaining the character of the community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Any others from announcements or agenda item requests? Dean, Jeff.
Yeah, I may have missed it, and I apologize in advance if I have, but I just would like an update on the observation deck and the fish pier and what's going on. When the state's coming down to inspect, et cetera, et cetera. I've asked for it a couple times now. Thanks.
Thank you. Any others from the board? Okay, any of the remote participants have any agenda item requests or public announcements? Any from the staff? Okay, so moving on, our first order of business is coronavirus COVID-19 update from Director of Natural Resources, Dr. Duncanson, and from our town manager, Jill Goldsmith. Dr. Bob, do you have anything you want to share with us today?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of quick items because I know you're trying to keep your agenda short. Quickly running through the numbers, worldwide, we are currently over 10.3 million cases. And over 500,000 deaths. In the US, we have over 2.6 million cases and over 127,000 deaths. So the U.S. continues to lead the world, higher than Brazil, which is the next highest country, and higher than Italy and all some of those countries that started this whole thing off multiple months ago. In Massachusetts, we are currently over 108,000 cases, and we are at 8,054 deaths. That's actually revised downward slightly from yesterday. The state has been going through an exercise to make sure their numbers are accurate, remove any duplicate counts, and so that's why that count is actually down again slightly from yesterday. In Barnstable County, we have 1,538 cases and a total of 144 deaths. In Chatham, we are still holding at 20 cases and 1 confirmed death of a Chatham resident. And I can tell you that all 20 of those cases that we have, laboratory confirmed cases in Chatham, have now cleared and are no longer considered active cases in most cases before, because they've exceeded the time period or they've clinically recovered or what have you. So we don't have any, we're not tracking any active cases in Chatham at this time. Just a couple of things that came out of the governor's press conference earlier today, because I think they're important for the board as well as the community to whole. One thing was the governor revised their travel advisory that pertains to everyone coming into Massachusetts. And if you'll indulge me for a second, I just want to read it to you because it is, I think, fairly important. All travelers arriving in Massachusetts, including Massachusetts residents returning home, are instructed to self-quarantine for 14 days, except, and beginning tomorrow, July 1st, travelers from Rhode Island, Connecticut, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, New York, and New Jersey arriving in Massachusetts are exempt from that self-quarantine directive. In addition, workers designated by the federal government as essential critical infrastructure workers are exempt from the directive to self-quarantine for 14 days if they're traveling to Massachusetts for work purposes. And obviously, all persons are instructed not to travel to Massachusetts if they are displaying symptoms of COVID-19. So this is a change from the previous travel advisory that was out there, where mainly if you're visiting one of the New England states or you're coming from one of the New England states, you do not need to self-quarantine for the 14 days. But if you travel to other parts of the country, places like Florida, Arizona, Louisiana, California, etc., where COVID-19 cases are currently increasing significantly, everyone, including Massachusetts residents that are returning to the state, are being asked to self-quarantine for that 14 days. So that is now up on the website, was announced earlier today, and I just wanted to make sure everybody had the benefit of that information. The other thing that the governor announced today is a new $20 million emergency rental and mortgage assistance fund, primarily targeted towards low-income folks. That is going to start tomorrow. Applications will be available up on the state's website, but that again is a fairly significant new financial aid package that the Commonwealth is announcing. And then just 2 things locally. Starting next week, we're going to cut back on our food and medication deliveries, where we use our CERT volunteers to only 1 day a week on Thursdays. And that's primarily because, as you can imagine, as things begin to reopen, people go back to work. Our number of available CERT volunteers has been declining. And so we're going to switch that service over to just 1 day a week on Thursdays. And then as time progresses, and we're actually having a meeting to discuss it tomorrow, we're going to transition that program over to the Council on Aging as they kind of ramp things back up and get their buses back on the road and whatnot. And then the other thing that I wanted to announce tonight, we haven't finalized the date yet, but we have put a program in place to have our playgrounds cleaned once a week. They do not need to be disinfected, but we do need to have them cleaned once a week. So we've got that program in place. So I expect we'll be issuing a press release, hopefully tomorrow, announcing that either tomorrow afternoon or maybe the next day, we'll be reopening the playgrounds. I know there's been some use of them already, even though we do have signs up indicating they are closed. But hopefully we're now in a position now that we've got that cleaning contract in place to reopen the playgrounds in time for the holiday weekend. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Bob. Any questions, Dean?
Thank you, Bob. Appreciate the update. Two questions with respect to the change in the self-quarantine protocol. How is that going to be communicated to people? I would assume it's a lot of material to put on our own electronic signs. Is the state planning to do something at the borders? Do we know?
The state's going to be, the state has had information at the borders as well as at the airports and all. With that information, they are in the process of going to be updating that directive. They've already got it up on multiple websites at the state. The DPH website is as well as others. We're going to update our links to the state's information as well. And I suspect, because I was surprised there wasn't a press release in the governor's office, but I expect it was probably on the 6 o'clock news tonight because it was one of the high points of the governor's press conference at noon today. So, they're going to try to get the word out as well as they can to folks.
The seasonal sign that we have electronically up on is that Old Queen Anne Road.
Yep.
Talks about seasonal visitors and out-of-state visitors. Is there any way of adjusting that? And obviously, you can't list all the states, but could we say something like visitors from or returnees from certain states?
We're limited in the amount of word we can put on there, and actually, we relocated that sign today to the lighthouse overlook. Okay. Indicating the mandatory mask requirement for the overlook and the lighthouse beach stairs, because we had observed that that was an area where we were not getting as good compliance as we were on Main Street. So we relocated that sign earlier this morning to bring home that message, if you will. There is a message board at exit 10 as you come off Route 6 in Harwich, which had the message. When I drive in tomorrow morning, I will see if that's been updated. I don't know if that was the town of Harwich that had that sign or the state, but I will call over. If it hasn't been updated, I'll call over to Harwich and see if they're the ones controlling that sign, if they're going to be updating it.
Okay. My other point is really an observation. I was at the transfer station today, and I note that the mask compliance was pretty flimsy. It wasn't an overwhelming presence of people there, but I did observe that. By way of contrast, I went up to the downtown today for a short walk, and also I drove along the main street on, I think it was Saturday, and I thought the mask compliance there was pretty significant. It was probably 90 and 95%. So I was pleased to see that.
Yeah, I've been trying to drive Main Street once or twice a day. I've seen pretty good compliance, as you said, anywhere from 90 to 95%, and most times through. I'm surprised at the transfer station because they have had one of the electronic message boards there about the signage. About the mandatory mask requirement, and we also put together. Our health agent put together kind of a little flyer that we're printing up. We provided a number of those to the police department, indicating where the mandatory mask requirements are. And we handed out a supply of those to the transfer station gate attendants yesterday, as well as we're hopefully going to be providing some of those to the Chamber of Commerce, because they're talking about potentially opening their booth up this weekend, as well as give them a supply of masks. And also the police department has that handout too, as well as the supply of masks, so that when they're driving Main Street or wherever and they observe something, they can hand that information out. We were trying not to get the police department too heavily involved in this, just because of the fact, as you can imagine, with the kind of the views of the police right now across the nation for various reasons. They really wanted to take a very a public education role as opposed to, getting in people's faces over masks, if you will. So that's why them having that kind of handout that they can simply hand out to somebody. And if they need to, they can give them a mask, and then they can step back so that they don't have to really, hammer it home too much. But as you said, so far we're seeing pretty good response, at least in the immediate downtown area.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions from the board? I see Mary Kavanaugh, you have your hand up. Would you like to ask Dr. Duncanson some questions? Mary?
Oh, hey, Shireen. I didn't hear you say my name.
Oh,
Sorry about that. I
No
just
worries.
wanted to add that the chamber opened the booth last Saturday and Sunday, and things went really well, and wanted everybody to know that we have masks there, that we are happy to distribute if someone has come down to Main Street and forgotten a mask. So our staff knows that they should distribute those to folks who might need a mask. So just wanted to let you know that.
thank you, Mary, very much. Any other remote participants that would like to speak?
Elaine Gibbs.
Anybody else? Okay, Elaine.
Yes, this is a comment about Baker's policy that now people from basically New England and the adjoining states don't have to quarantine. So unless that means that people from Ohio are more contagious than people from New Jersey, I think this was politically driven because those are where most of the tourists come from. I don't see how they can, we can expect people from Ohio or Pennsylvania or Texas to come here and quarantine for 14 days when the people from Connecticut, New York, Maine, New Jersey don't have to. So I think effectively what he has done is he's opened up the state. There is no quarantine. People can come in here. And it is just a political thing to make him look like there's some kind of control, and there isn't. So I would suggest that within 2 to 3 weeks, we're going to find out the impact of that in terms of contagion, because I don't believe people are, I would say that during certain times of the day, I heard you say, Corey, that there were about 60% of the people wearing masks during a part of the day for you today on Main Street. So that, I think that's a problem, and I think it's discrimination, and I don't think you can force people from Ohio to quarantine. People from New Jersey don't. And that's all I have to say. But I'm very disappointed in what he's done. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Elaine. Anybody else would like to comment or have a question for Dr. Duncanson? Okay, thank you, Bob. We'll turn it over to Town Manager Jill Goldsmith for her update. Jill?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So we launched our non-resident beach permit stickers, beach permit passes, not the sticker program, on Friday. And since Friday to this morning, we've sold 660 online permits, and that accounts for about $35,000. So It's been strong. I know our IT director, Craig, who was on this meeting, monitored it all weekend and did some troubleshooting, but it did work out well, and it seemed to go pretty well at the gate as well. So it's a good start. We did public service announcements on that, so they're on the website. So when someone actually wants to click on to buy a permit, they can review the public service announcement. There's a couple of them. One's about 2 minutes. There's another one that there's a combo. The beaches are open, and what to expect when you come to Chatham beaches for social distancing, which is probably nothing new to most people, but we thought it would be important to have something on video, so we have that. And then on Thursday, I did an all-employee Zoom information session. So we gave employees an update on what's happening. That was provided by Chief Dave, Chief Mark Polina, as well as Bob Duncanson. And it was a really great update. We also had a video component of one of the members of the fire department showing how to don and doff our PPE in the appropriate way to put gloves on with a little humor. So that was great. And we also had a serious section on de-escalation, a serious session on de-escalation. So about being supportive and directive. And there were some key phrases that Chief Paulina had provided that I think will serve us well in every capacity. So with that, the workplace modifications at the town offices are underway. While we've been open, I'm not sure that we'll be open to the public before July 25th or 27th, working on that, and then how that's going to be, because we will have to do contact tracing for anyone who comes into the town offices. So we're thinking possibly by appointment, but again, phone, email, drop off, fax. Staff is here and they're here to help the residents. So that's worked out pretty well. And I think that's about it. I know that Dr. Bob, if he can stay on the line, he can provide an update about the Fish Pier observation deck, because there's been some discussions about when we might be able to open that. And I'll defer to him, Madam Chair, when you're ready.
Sure. I think there's a couple of questions from the board first, Jill, if you don't mind. Jeff has his hand up.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Jill, are the bathrooms open at the beaches, Oyster Pond or Hardings Beach?
Yeah, they've been open since June 15th.
Oh, good.
And the beaches are open for paid parking, lifeguards. And I think Bob can brief you a little later on some of the complaints that we received about Schoolhouse Pond. So
Right.
if you have any questions about that, but yes, bathrooms are all open.
And any feedback from lifeguards on social distancing on the beaches at all? And any feedback yet?
I haven't heard anything yet. I see Bob just raised his hand, and I have my meeting with Dan Tobin tomorrow morning, so I'll find out more.
Okay, I would like to hear about Schoolhouse. Yes, thank you.
Bob, do
Thank
you want to answer Jeff's questions while they're fresh?
Yeah, just quickly, I could tell you that we had some aerial photos taken on Saturday. We weren't taking them because of the beaches, but we were taking them because of the dredge operation. But we did capture a couple of photos of Hardings Beach, and frankly, it was great. Everybody was well spread out. As you can imagine, there's plenty of space there. But we took a look at them earlier today and saw no real issues at Hardings Beach. Everybody was socially distanced. Everybody was spread out. It looked really good. However, we have gotten a number of complaints regarding Schoolhouse Pond, which, as the board is aware, we raised that issue when Park and Rec was before you earlier. We did get some complaints. We actually got a call into the Emergency Operations Center over the weekend from the beach supervisor regarding Schoolhouse. And then we've gotten a couple of complaints from people who live in the area regarding lack of social distancing, no masks, too much parking. Park and Rec, or the Parks Department, had put out some cones to block off some of the parking spaces, and people just simply moved those cones and parked in the spaces. They were parking along the sides of the parking lot. They were parking along the sides of the road. So that is going to be an issue. I'll be speaking to Dan Tobin about that tomorrow, as to whether or not there's anything that we can do, because the only other option, quite honestly, would be to have a discussion with the Board of Health, and they could potentially order that the beach be closed. And that was a concern we had early on. So I'll talk to Dan tomorrow about it to see if Park and Rec is looking at it. I have forwarded over to him any of the complaints that we've gotten in the health side, to make sure he's aware of any issues that we're hearing about that he may not be. So with that, that's a quick update.
Thanks, Bob. Do you want to quickly give the Fish Pier update while you're here, and then we'll move on?
Yeah, quickly, as folks know, the Fish Pier observation deck is completed. We've been waiting to get the elevator finished up, but we have been in contact with the building commissioner. And right now we're working on a partial certificate of occupancy that would allow us to open the deck, even though the elevator is not yet been fully completed and inspected. We're actually working, myself, Pomeroy, as well as the engineer, is trying to square away whatever needs to be done with the elevator company to get them down here to finish it up. But in the meantime, we're looking to try to get a partial certificate that would allow us to open it. I believe the building commissioner and the fire inspector were heading out there today to do an inspection, just kind of one last inspection. All the permits, in terms of the building permits, the only permit that's outstanding is the building permit, and that's why the building commissioner was heading out to do his final inspection. But all the electrical permits, the fire suppression system permits, those have all been closed out. So hopefully maybe as early as tomorrow, we'll get an indication that from a permit side, everything's good. And then the engineer is working on her affidavits to the building commissioner, indicating that everything's been built according to plan and spec and whatnot. So I'm cautiously optimistic, although as you know, I can never guarantee anything, that we're going to be able to open the observation deck before the holiday weekend, and get people out of the parking lot and get them up on the deck where they should be.
Thank you, Bob. Any other board members have questions for Jill or Dr. Bob? Dean?
Yeah, Jill, on the agenda, it says it's a repeat item, but it says the directive regarding advisory committee meetings. Is there any update on that? For example, I was talking with a member of the Summer Residence Committee recently, and have they been approved to go forward for more than their initial meeting, for example? I'm just asking it on my own behalf.
Yeah, so I know there weren't any materials in your packet, so basically I wanted to check in because we had said through June 30th, there were certain committees that could meet in preparation for the annual town meeting, or certain items for recommendations to the board that needed to be done. And this was an opportunity to check in with the board again. And so I have some more information to share when we get to that agenda item.
Thank you, Jill. Any other questions from the remote participants on the town manager's update? Okay, hearing none. All right, well, why don't we move on to that, Jill, the directives on the advisory committee meetings.
Okay, so, sorry, I don't see Jeff here. I don't know if he's.
Jeff, where'd he go?
Well, I'll just keep talking until he comes in. So I just want to remind the board that the primary role of the advisory boards and committees is to make recommendation to you as a board of selectmen. And what I'm asking the board to consider is what you need in regard to recommendations under the current COVID-19 state of emergency or the continuation of essential services. So the board has allowed some advisory boards and committees to meet for a specific matter or a deadline. And we talked about that briefly, but none of those meetings have been live. And then in June, when you last discussed it, I believe it was June 2nd, you approved for some advisory committees to meet to discuss matters relative to the June annual town meeting, and others to provide, like I said, specific comments or recommendations that was needed to forward to the Board of Selectmen. So for each new advisory teams meeting requires a training by the IT director, Craig Rowe, with less than a quorum of the members prior to the scheduled session. And then each chairman requires up to 2 training sessions with the IT director and the staff liaison prior to the first meeting. And then each team's meetings requires a staff liaison to participate and record the meeting. And the IT director usually audits the meeting for up to 20 minutes to troubleshoot. And that's in some cases that we've seen, it's taken 20 minutes to actually start a first meeting, such as the Summer Residence Advisory Committee. Even though test work, it just seemed that morning there were some difficulties. And then just a reminder for the board that each agenda item has to have a certain verbiage for formatting, a verbiage for posting of a virtual meeting. And our practice has been to include all materials under consideration to be posted and uploaded to the website so that public has access to it. So in talking to staff, I think we're going to continue our virtual meetings for the Board of Selectmen, likely through summer until there's another directive from the governor, but more importantly, because our large meeting room doesn't allow for a hybrid meeting, which means a live meeting and a Teams meeting. And that's something that's in the works under the upgrade. So that's basically all I have to report, and I defer to the board in your liaison capacity if there is any opportunity for the other committees to meet.
Kim, so you're recommending that we don't go further with anything that other than what we've already approved? Is that what you're saying, Jill?
I really can't see any meeting that has to occur, and if you want to do it month to month, maybe for July. I do know the Summer Residence Advisory Committee, we had a 3-hour meeting where they were working to set what their agenda is, and they're looking to not necessarily have a live summer residence meeting, but maybe host a show or do a webinar type of format just to provide their reports and recommendations. And so that's a little That's modified from what they usually do is they meet every Friday morning at 9 a.m. and usually there's a department head who comes in and speak on a matter and they kick it off with the chairman and myself. So I know they're anxious to meet because they do provide recommendations. I just don't know if the board is amenable to having them meet for July.
Before July? I'm sorry.
I'm
you-
sorry,
you're not-
yeah, before August.
Before August. Okay. So I know that they had put that request in. I haven't had much feedback. I know that Shellfish Advisory is having some challenges that they'd like to sort through. And they do want to be able to weigh in on the special town meeting on the article that was deferred in August. So at some point, I think that they would like to regroup, but whether that happens in July, maybe it's an August thing. I don't think it's critical right at this moment, but they are asking for that. I don't know if any of the other board members have heard from their committees. Peter?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I've heard from a couple, and with the same comment, it's not critical right now, but they'd like to get on board, especially before town meeting. And maybe, as Jill mentioned, it makes sense to come back and check with us in another few weeks, or we can see how things are going.
Is there any opportunity, Jill, to do some sort of staggered approach to this, or is that simply or will it simply just be or an as needed? I mean, I can't imagine that once people are meeting that it can go regularly on the advisory side. I'm just curious as to how different we can approach this.
I think we could. I think the issue that we have is that it won't be the committee's regular meeting schedule. I mean, maybe if they want to meet once to reorganize that, with your new appointments, they might want that. But it's just because of the training that's involved in having staff in on those meetings. I can't have two competing meeting days and times because Craig can't be in two places essentially, right. And we just have, him. And I see the chairman of the Summer Residence Advisory Committee is on the meeting. I don't really know what other board or committee advisory needs to meet. I do know we already talked about the Water and Sewer Advisory Committee, and there's some applications that they need to review in order to make a recommendation to you as the Water and Sewer Commissioner. So I haven't heard from others, but you may have as a liaison.
Yeah, the Water and Sewer, yes, because I think there's some businesses that are actually, want to get open. I think there is a small restaurant in West Chatham that's trying to open up, and I think they have a water and sewer issue. So if we could get that moving along, I think, that's about people's livelihoods. It might be a priority for the board. Corey had his hand up. Go ahead, Corey.
Yeah, thank you. No, just for my liaison duties, I know Chairman Westgate from the South Coastal Harbor has expressed his interest to be able to meet, at some point this summer. They're anxious to, or reorganize and kind of move forward. And while I have not had a chance to speak with the chairman of the Golf Course Advisory Committee recently, I would assume at some point this summer it might be sensible for those guys to kind of just check in because of the, this is the peak season for the play at the golf course, see how it's being run, anything that they can do. I mean, it's probably not critical, but if there's a way to slide those guys in, and if the chairman wants to have a meeting, I'm just kind of just throwing it out there. But I think if people understand, working under different conditions right now. So I haven't had any really, really big pushes from any of my committees. Park and Rec is up and going, which I truly appreciate. It makes complete sense for those guys to be meeting. But other than that, there's been no big push for meeting at the moment.
Okay. Any other from the board? Dean?
Yeah, I haven't heard anything more from the committees, the advisory committees that I'm liaison to, except that I ran into the chair of the Council on Aging today at the supermarket, and she has some ideas to want to meet later on in the summer and early fall. But water and sewer, we talked about. The assessors did have their organizational meeting. I haven't heard from anybody else. So I did have a question I wanted to pose to Faye Malfa if she because I hadn't heard, and maybe Jill knows the answer. Are the summer residents planning an annual summer town meeting?
So we met last week, as was permitted by the board, and determined that an annual summer town meeting for the summer residents, both live or virtual, was not doable this year. But what we were hoping to do is to put together a recorded communication that would tell the summer residents what we've been working on this year, and give the scorecard, and give an update to the summer residents in a recorded format that perhaps could be shown on Channel 18. We were hoping to meet this summer. Jill and both folks from the IT group were enormously helpful in getting us up and running for our first meeting. And as I understand it, if I could be instructed on how to press the record button in this virtual world, we might be able to do these meetings without staff input, because I think we're pretty good on Microsoft Teams. It sort of depended on whether you had an iPad or an IBM PC, but other than that, people called in or had iPads or got on Microsoft Teams. And we were hoping to meet every Friday, which gives us, I don't know, 6 or 7 meetings between July and a few in August. We have put together some working groups who were interested in working on some issues, some of which will be coming up in the September meeting, like the residential tax issue. So if it is possible, we would like to meet, and I'm available to answer any questions you have around that or anything else.
Thank you very much.
Okay, any other thoughts on the advisory committee meetings? Jeff, Corey?
No, I'm back, thanks.
Yeah.
Good.
All right. Do we want to make any recommendations to Jill other than what we've sort of verbalized here about the water and sewer? And go ahead, Peter.
Just to be sure that she comes back in a couple of meetings from now or whatever, and we talk about it again, because we can then, I can speak to a number of our chairmen of the advisory committee.
Jill, did we leave it at your discretion the last time on organizing meetings based on availability? Is that how we did it?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So that we can remain in that status quo, so to speak. Okay. All right. All right. Any other comments or questions from the remote participants? All right. Hearing none. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So just so I understand where we are going forward, we'll be waiting to hear from Jill to see if we can meet. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. We all set? All right.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Jill. The next item is Downtown Working Group update from the Director of Community Development, Katie Donovan. Katie, are you on?
I am. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. This is just a very quick update. The committee met last week. We are meeting weekly. There was some concerns brought up to the committee that one of the areas, and I will, if it's okay with you, I'll just share my screen quickly to be able to show you. Let's see. I apologize.
Take your time.
So for some reason it's not sharing on your. I don't believe you're seeing anything, are you?
No, we're not.
Okay, so I'll just so I'll try to verbalize. So the area in front of the captain's table, there were 3 spaces that were designated there for curbside and curbside pickup and to go. And a few of the business owners in that area expressed some concern that that was just too much. And so the committee, the working group, had a conversation last week, and they all agreed that we could limit that to 2 spaces instead of 3. And so really that's the basis for the update tonight. We just wanted to make sure, because the board did vote that we were keeping you in the loop on what was happening with the group. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but it's just really that quick of an update for tonight.
Great, thank you. Are you hearing any, is anybody hearing any issues or problems with, I was talking to, well, I guess I'll just say, I was talking with a resident who went into town, and this was about masks, and they just reminded somebody about masking and whatnot, and that person got a little bit upset with them, and they felt that they were just trying to inform them that, we have the side streets where there's very little signage that sort of explains what's going on. You see it on the main drag, but you don't see it on the side street. I was just wondering if anybody else was having any issues with that. But I guess you haven't been hearing anything.
Madam Chair, I had heard a few of the business owners had expressed some views, and actually what I had been told was that they thought that the mask compliance was pretty high, and that, in the downtown area, for the most part, they said that things seemed very civil. People seemed to be happy to be able to be out, and they hadn't seen any issues at all. And this was again for our meeting last Wednesday, so I can't speak to anything that may have happened since then. But that was the information I took away.
Great. And okay, Corey, your hand's up.
Yeah, no, it's down. I'll just throw my 2 cents out there as a downtown merchant. What I've seen through my limited lens and my little area. I mean, there's days that people are very compliant. There's been days that has been much lower compliance. They have them on their bodies, their ears, their chins, and their hand. Some people are very, very conscious about wearing the mask and having their family members wearing the mask, the kids, the whole 9 yards. The other day we, downtown got a little bit, the weather was kind of lousy, which draws people into town. From a personal perspective, this is the first time we tested our protocol for the store, limiting people in and lines, and all in all, people were very good that day. They understood the protocol. They were good outside. It was a very positive experience for that day, and I hope that does continue, because I think that's a merchant fear right now, is how people are going to react to all these changes and the limitations they have. So from that one example of that one day, we had a very positive experience, that people were willing to wait, willing to abide by whatever restrictions the shops were having. So I do think I'm a little more positive with that under my belt now. But yeah, you're going to see all kinds of opinions and expressions out there, and I think this is the reality of it. Some people will wear a mask, some people won't wear a mask. The areas that we've designated for parking and drop-offs, I haven't seen any major issues or even major usage of actually that much so far. But like I say, I'm only one set of eyes, so nothing. I'm gonna keep my eyes out for the summer, and I think this is going to be a different summer, and we're all going to try our best to make these adjustments, and I think what we have in place now are reasonable, and I'm glad the working group is meeting every week and just kind of keeping an eye on things and see how this goes. So fingers crossed.
Thank you, Corey. Jeff, you had your hand up.
Yeah, just as a piece of pertinent information for the working group, I happened to walk Main Street Hyannis today. They've gone to a one-way headed west. They have kind of considerable Jersey barriers, demarcating, giving pedestrians the parking area to the right and the sidewalk. So it's one way, gigantic promenade on the right-hand side or the north side of Main Street. Very pleasant, very workable, really neat, very, very neat ambiance and really neat traffic flow. The point is very easily to socially distant. As I walked, I had a mask on, took it off, maintained social distance very easily. A lot of people had masks, a lot of people didn't, but everybody was very socially distant, very aware of everybody's surroundings. So it was very, very interesting. I liked it. It's good. Just as a matter of point of interest, if you get a chance to go down, you'll like it.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
And any other comments from the board? Any comments or questions from the remote participants? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Katie, for the update. We appreciate it. And we're going to move on to the next agenda item, which is consider application for increased outdoor seating, Chatham Squire. And my understanding is the Squire submitted a proposal to amend their temporary outdoor dining area adjacent to their restaurant from 48 seats to 108 seats. The proposed area has not changed, however. Once the original tables were in place, the applicant realized there was sufficient space for more tables. Katie, are you making the presentation on this as well? Or is this not hearing anybody? Or is it Shauna?
No, I apologize. I couldn't get the mute button off, Madam Chair.
Okay. All right.
So,
go ahead.
All right, so Shauna is sharing her screen, and you can see that the up on the area that there are additional tables added from the previous plan. But again, the area in question has not changed. It's just that when the applicant originally applied, they had an area that they had proposed that did not have tables. And when we put our outdoor dining policy in place, we required that there be no congregating. So the applicant realized that there were additional areas to put tables. So they're proposing 18 tables, and they're tables of 6. They are sufficiently placed 6 feet apart. The team met, the review team has met. There's been site visits by the building commissioner, the health agent, and I believe the police and fire departments as well. And everybody is comfortable with the setup that is there, with the same conditions that were put in place earlier. And also that because now where indoor seating is allowed to some capacity, that we would just ask that the entire occupancy not exceed their original occupancy that they had for indoor seating.
Katie, what was their original occupancy?
I believe it's around 348, if I'm not mistaken.
And do we know how many dining room seats they have in the restaurant that they're utilizing?
I don't know specifically that answer right now, but I believe Mr. Hurl is on the call, so he may be able to answer that.
Are there any, before we go to Mr. Hurl, is there any questions from the board for Katie? And then Todd, we'll have you speak on the matter. Dean, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And maybe Todd can answer this. I informed Shauna this afternoon. I went over there this afternoon just to take a look at the area in question to satisfy myself that they could safely accommodate an additional 10 tables. And I believe they can, but 18 tables were already set up. And more than 8 tables were, and this was a sort of late lunch hour, more than 8 tables were in use. Not all 18, but more than 8. So I just wondered how that had occurred since we haven't approved it yet.
I saw the same thing. I went there at lunchtime. I was there about 11:45, and I saw that they had already placed the seating. One of the other things I had a little concern about, Katie, was that the entryway to the outdoor dining area is right on the road. It's close to the road and how it goes into the back parking lot. Yeah. And there was a couple of small children there that were getting their masks readjusted by their family members. And it looked like the hostess station was on the outside of the dining area versus on the inside of the dining area. And I have a little concern about safety there. I don't know if you guys have addressed that or not. But I guess these are a couple of questions that we can ask Katie, and then we'll have Mr. Hurl speak to the matter as well. Katie?
Sure, thank you. And I will say that I know that when the building commissioner was there, it was before lunchtime, and so that the tables were set up, but they were not in use at that point in time. And the pictures that he had taken and sent along did show that the hostess station was inside that area. So I think that is something that we could ask Mr. Hurl to make sure or make a condition of the approval as well. And I'm not sure if he has any further comment, but
sure,
would see if he's available to speak.
Todd, would you like to speak to the matter, please?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, the hostess stand, that's correct. It's outside the perimeter. We can move it inside the perimeter easily. So that, we can correct that. The idea was that people could see the hostess stand, coming down the alley, but I think, we'd be happy to move it on the inside. And then on people's seating, we had the tables out there. We have been limiting the seating to 48, and because I thought that was the requisite guideline to limit total seating to 48. So if they were spread beyond 10 tables, then that was my mistake. I had thought that the 48 was the kind of ultimate cap on the number of seats. And so now we do have full 18 tables out in the back patio, and we're kind of ready to go with the new plan. But we've been limiting the seating to 48 to comply with what was approved.
Todd.
I'd be happy to do whatever the board would like to stay in compliance.
Okay, great. Todd, if you move the hostess station inside, does that, would that readjust the amount of tables that you could have? Well, it looked like you had adequate room there for what you're trying to do.
I think we could find a spot,
Okay.
inside the gate that we could, to keep everything kind of encapsulated.
Yeah. All right. Jeff, I see your hands up.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Katie, I've got a question. It says proposed lighting and proposed fencing to demarcate the restaurant area from the parking lot. Is everybody comfortable on the working group that fencing is okay there? We have traffic going right by there. Isn't that a town parking lot? Is there really enough room? I'm just, I haven't been down there, and I defer to those that have, but boy, it looks like it's awful close to parking and traffic.
Sure, I can answer that, Madam Chair. As I said, that the working group is comfortable with that, and I could actually share, hopefully if my screen share can work this time, I can actually share a photo that may be beneficial and helpful for Selectman Dykens just to get a look at it, if that's okay.
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay, so here is a picture of the inside from the inside of the patio area to where you can see my mouse scrolling around. There's the entrance over on the far end of the picture over here. So as you can see that the tables are adequately spaced. And I'm just going to pull up a different picture here. Let's see. I apologize. For some reason, I'm having an issue getting to that.
Okay.
Okay.
In the packet, Jeff, there is a picture of the mobile, their little mobile bar, and then some cones along that roadway, and that's where the hostess station is. And then it goes around the corner into the parking area, or it goes to the right.
How late are they going to be eating out there?
Todd, what's your dining hours?
I think so Friday and Saturday, we're closing the kitchen about a half hour before we have to close. So I think Sunday through Thursday, it's 10 o'clock is when we have to close. And so we're closing the kitchen around 9:30. Okay. And then for Friday and Saturday night, it's that we have to close at 11. And I believe we're actually closing the kitchen at 10 on those nights.
Yeah, I just, I don't know. It's pretty tight there. The fencing's one thing. That's not going to stop somebody that's driving errantly. I don't know. If the wiser heads amongst us, meaning the working group, think that this is safe, then I'll go with God. If the police chief is signed off and I'll go with God as well. But I'd be more comfortable if there was something more solid there between people sitting at picnic tables and traffic. That's my opinion.
Any other questions or comments? Dean, your hand is raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to say something in response to my observation this afternoon and Todd's comment about 48 people, not more than 48 people being spread out. I did not do a count, but I think he's correct. I did not. My recollection is that there weren't more than 48 people. He simply had them spread out over more tables, and I do think that was compliant with the protocol that we have. So I just had observed that there were tables already set up, and people were sitting at more than 8 tables. So that's what caused me to inquire. Thank you for the explanation, Todd.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board for Todd? We seem to be having a reverb. So I guess I'm looking for a motion that has the conditions on the has the condition on the hostess station and the stipulations about the mobile bar and the occupancy not to exceed the original occupancy limit. Do I have a motion?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
So just an observation first. I thought we might have lost Peter, but I do see him.
Peter's there.
Okay. Madam Chair, I move to approve the proposal from the Chatham Squire increasing the outdoor dining occupancy from 48 to 108 with the condition that the total occupancy, indoor and outdoor, not exceed the original occupancy limit, and with the original stipulation that the mobile bar will not, and that's underscored, be utilized on site at any time, and with the further condition that the hostess station be placed within the perimeter of the premises.
Okay. Do I have a second on that?
Second by
Okay, Peter, I see you came back to do a second. Wonderful. Any further questions or comments from the board? Any questions or comments from the remote participants? Hearing none, I will take a roll call of the board. We'll start with Peter.
aye.
Corey.
Aye.
Dean.
Aye.
Jeff.
Aye.
And the chair says aye. All right, motion has moved, and good luck, Todd, and thank you, Katie, for your presentation.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Have a good evening. Okay, our item C is Board of Selectmen reappointments to boards, commissions, and committees. We have a number of appointments to go through. Airport Commission, Lydia's Cove, Historic Commission, Historic Business District Commission, and Zoning Board of Appeals. I think 2 of them we may be able to go through quickly, and that's the Historic Commission and the HBDC. I think those are just both incumbents, but I'm always going to look to my fellow board members to check me on that one. And Aunt Lydia's Cove, I will not be voting on that. So I'm gonna, we need to take that out of order. So do we just go down the line, do you think, and just?
One at a time.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so for the Airport Commission, we have 3 vacancies for terms expiring June 30th, 2023. Mike Galen is an incumbent who was interviewed June 18th, 2020. Ted Burke, an incumbent, interviewed June 25th, 2020. Renee Haas, an incumbent, interviewed June 25th, 2020. Carol Gordon was interviewed, she's a new applicant, interviewed June 25th, 2020. Holly Trick, interviewed, she's a new applicant, though she interviewed prior, last year. She was interviewed June 25th, 2020. Susan Wilcox is a new applicant, though she has interviewed in prior years. Her interview was June 25th, 2020, and the same with Keith Yoakum. He's a new applicant, but he has interviewed in prior years, and he was interviewed June 25th, 2020. So I will start with taking a recommendation for one of the terms. Jeff.
Madam Chair, I would move to appoint Ted Burke to the Airport Commission until June 30th, 2023, unless sooner revoked or a successor is appointed.
Second, okay. Do we have any other appointments for that position? Okay. All right. And do you want to go down the line?
I think.
One at a time.
I
You would
suggest.
take them
them
one at
Oh.
okay. All right. Okay. So appointment for Ted Burke. Do we have, we'll take a roll. Jeff,
Aye.
Dean,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Corey,
Aye.
and the chair says aye. Okay. Second, Dean,
Madam Chair, I move to appoint Mike Galen to the Airport Commission until June 30th, 2023, unless sooner revoked or a successor is appointed.
do you have a second?
Second.
Okay. All right. Do we have any other for this position? Then we'll go forward with this appointment. Vote. Jeff,
Aye.
Dean,
Aye.
Corey,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
and the chair says aye. All right. Our final appointment. Do we have a motion for an appointing? Peter,
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to appoint Susan Wilcox to the Airport Commission until June 30th, 2023, until sooner revoked or a successor is appointed.
do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Do we have any other, Corey?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'd like to nominate Keith Yoakum to the Airport Commission until June 30, 2023, unless sooner revoked or successor is appointed.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any others? All right. So we'll take a roll vote with the name. Peter,
Susan Wilcox.
Dean,
Susan Wilcox.
Corey,
Keith Yoakum.
Jeff,
Susan Wilcox.
and the chair votes Susan Wilcox. Okay. We want to thank all the other applicants for having having interviewed and appreciate the service of others. So Aunt Lydia's Cove Committee, there are 2 vacancies, but we only have 1 interviewee for this. Do we have a motion to appoint? Jeff,
Madam Chair, I move to appoint Doug Feeney to the Aunt Lydia's Cove Committee until June 30th, 2023, unless sooner revoked or a successor is appointed.
do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Dean,
Doug Feeney, aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Corey.
Aye.
And I abstain. So 4-0-1. Okay. Next is the Historic Commission, 2 vacancies for terms ending June 30th, 2023. 2 vacancies for alternate terms ending June 30th, 2021. All the members are incumbents. Don Aikman interviewed the 24th. Jane Moffett interviewed the 24th. Steve Burlingame, he's an alternate incumbent, interviewed the 24th. And Erica Milmaki an alternate was interviewed on the 24th. So I have a motion to appoint a member of the Historical Commission. Go ahead, Dean.
Madam Chair, I move to appoint Don Aikman to the Historical Commission until June 30th, 2023, unless sooner revoked or a successor is appointed.
Do I have a second?
Second, Peter.
Okay, let's take a roll call vote. Jeff?
Madam Chair,
Aye.
ask if
so-
any other nominations
Oh,
for the.
I'm sorry. Any other nominations for the position? Okay, okay, let's take a roll call. Jeff,
Aye.
Corey,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Dean,
Aye.
the chair says aye. Okay. Peter, go ahead.
Madam Chair, I move to appoint Jane Moffett to the Historical Commission until June 30th, 2023, unless sooner revoked or a successor is appointed.
Do we have any-
Second.
Second, do we have any other nominations for this position? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Jeff,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Jean,
Aye.
Corey,
Aye.
chair says aye. Okay, next.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Dean, go ahead.
I move to appoint Stephen Burlingame to the Historical Commission as an alternate until June 30th, 2021, unless sooner revoked or a successor is appointed.
Do we have a second? Jeff?
Second.
Okay. So we'll take a roll call vote. Oh, is there any other, for this position, though, there are only 2 left, so it doesn't really, it's a moot point. Corey, we'll go first.
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Dean,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
and the chair says aye. And finally, last position?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move to appoint Erica Milmaki to the Historical Commission as an alternate until June 30th, 2021, unless sooner revoked or a successor is appointed.
We have a second on that.
Second.
Okay. Take a roll. Corey,
Aye.
Dean,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
and the chair says aye. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. All right. Going on to the Historic Business District Commission, we have 3 vacancies for terms ending June 30th, 2023. 1 vacancy for an alternate term ending June 30th, 2021. All the interviewees are incumbents, though Mr. Silver and Mr. Stryber were unable to attend their interview today. We did not hear back from them, but we know that their intention was to, they did reapply. So it's Robert Burns, who is an incumbent. He was interviewed this morning. Ted Sam Strybert is an incumbent. Dan Silver, an incumbent, and Doug Granton, an alternate incumbent, was interviewed June 30th, 2020. So may I have an appointment recommendation? Go ahead, Jeff.
Madam Chair, I move to appoint Robert Burns to the Historic Business District Commission until June 30th, 2023, unless sooner revoked or a successor is appointed.
Do we have another recommendation for this appointment?
I'll second that nomination first.
Okay. Thank you, Dean. Always rush through these a little bit. Do we have any other appointments for that or nominations? Okay, let's take a roll. Corey,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Dean,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
and the chair says aye. All right, next.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
I move to appoint Ted Sam Strabig to the Historic Business District Commission until June 30th, 2023, unless sooner revoked or a successor is appointed.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Well, that was a resounding second. Okay, so let's take a roll call vote. Jeff,
Aye.
oh, no, wait, I have to ask, this was because there is an incumbent. Do we have any other recommendations for this appointment? Okay, hearing none. Jeff, I'll hear you
Aye.
again. Thank
Aye.
you. Dean,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Corey,
Aye.
the chair says aye. Okay, thank you all. South Coastal Harbor Plan Commission. I'm sorry,
Okay.
say that again?
Did we finish?
No,
We-
we have 2 left.
Oh.
The 2
I'm-
alternates.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay. So sorry. I thought we had already gotten through that whole list. Okay, do we have recommendations? Go ahead.
Madam Chair, I move to appoint Dan Silver to the Historic Business District Commission until June 30th, 2023, unless sooner revoked or a successor is appointed.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any other recommendations for that appointment? Hearing none, let's take a roll call. Peter,
Aye.
Dean,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Corey,
Aye.
chair says aye. Okay, great. All right. Next, do we have recommendations? Go ahead, Jeff.
Madam Chair, I move to appoint Doug Grattan to the Historic Business District Commission as an alternate until June 30th, 2021, unless sooner revoked, a successor is appointed.
Okay, thank you. A second on that?
Second.
Okay, let's take a roll. Jeff,
Aye.
Corey,
Aye.
Dean,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
chair says aye. All right, finally, we're finished on that one. Great. All right, South Coastal Harbor Plan Commission, 1 vacancy for June 30th, 2023. We have 2 applicants for this position. One is Dick Hoyt. He was interviewed June 10th, 2020. And Peter Tarrant was interviewed September 16, 2019. Do we have a recommendation for this position? Corey,
I'd like to nominate Dick Hoyt to the South Coastal Harbor Committee until June 30, 2023, unless sooner revoked or a successor is appointed.
we have a second?
Second.
Second. Do we have any other appointment recommendations, nominations? Okay, hearing none, we'll go through a roll call. Jeff,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Dean,
Aye.
Corey,
Aye.
and the chair says aye. Okay, all right. Do we have another? Okay, so finally, we have the Zoning Board of Appeals. We have one vacancy for a term ending June 30th, 2023, 3 vacancies for associate terms June 30th, 2021. We interviewed five interviewees. Robert Hessler, incumbent, was interviewed June 17th, 2020. Dennis Sullivan, associate incumbent, was interviewed June 17th, 2020. Dave Thompson, an associate incumbent, was interviewed June 17th, 2020. James Buck Upson, associate incumbent, was interviewed June 10th, 2020. And Megan Story was interviewed today, June 30th, 2020, and she's a new applicant. Do we have a motion for the first position? Dean?
Madam Chair, this is the full position.
This is the full position. Okay.
I move to appoint James Buck Upson to the Zoning Board of Appeals until June 30th, 2023, unless sooner revoked or a successor is appointed.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do we have any other nominations for this position? Corey?
Yes, Madam Chair. I'd like to nominate Robert Hessler to the Zoning Board of Appeals until June 30, 2023, unless sooner revoked or a successor is appointed.
Do I have a second? Okay, hearing none, we will take the vote on James Buck Upson. Corey?
Abstain.
Dean?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
And the chair says aye. Okay, our final 3 are for associate positions. And do I have a nomination? Jeff? Jeff?
I think he's.
Jeff, can you hear us?
Yeah, no, I lost you. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Madam Chair, I move to appoint Dennis Sullivan to the Zoning Board of Appeals as an associate until June 30th, 2021, unless sooner revoked or a successor is appointed.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Do we have anybody else for this position? Okay, hearing none, I'll take a roll. Jeff?
Aye.
Corey?
Aye.
Dean?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
And the chair says aye. Okay. All right, second associate position, nomination, Dean.
Madam Chair, I move to appoint Dave Thompson to the Zoning Board of Appeals as an associate until June 30th, 2021, unless sooner revoked or a successor is appointed.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other appointed for this position? Nominations for this position? Okay, hearing none. This is a nomination for Dave Thompson. Vote, Peter.
Aye.
Corey.
Aye.
Dean.
Aye.
Jeff.
Aye.
And the chair says aye. All right, do we have a nomination for the last position as associate nomination? Yes, Peter.
Excuse me, I move to appoint Megan Story to the Zoning Board of Appeals as an associate until June 30th, 2021, unless sooner revoked or a successor is appointed.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any other nominations for this position? All right, hearing none, I will take a roll call vote. Jeff.
Aye.
Dean.
Aye.
Corey.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
And the chair says aye. Okay, thank you. All right, moving on. Thank you, everyone who applied and interviewed. All right, our last order of business tonight is consideration for our Board of Selectmen summer schedule. I do want to let you know that I was not planning on, Jill and I had discussed this, we were not planning on a meeting next Tuesday, July 5th. Employees have the day off on the 3rd as their legal holiday, and we're feeling that that's insufficient time for planning for a meeting, and also, quite frankly, to give everybody a little bit of a breather. It's been a pretty rigorous schedule going forward. We've had a couple of meetings here that seem to have been a bit less rigorous, but nonetheless, we just want to look at the schedule. So, Jill, do you want to take over?
Yes, so it's July 7th. That would be the meeting that we're proposed to cancel. And at this time, I don't have any staff requests for agenda items. And I see no issue going weekly, starting with July 14th. And if there's a reason to cancel, then we can certainly apprise the board the week before. But I think, and you probably agree with our COVID-19 updates and maybe some matters with outdoor dining and governor's directives, I think it's fine for us to continue to meet in July weekly, and then maybe in August, if we can skip a couple of Tuesdays, just go with the flow on that. So again, the next meeting then, if you agree to cancel July 7th, would be Tuesday, July 14th.
Okay, any discussion from the board? Dean?
Well, Madam Chair, I would like to have, I'm okay with the weekly meetings in July based on, for the same reasons Jill just outlined, but I think we should revisit this as we approach August, and perhaps look at August as a bi-weekly schedule with special meetings on the call of the chair. But we could talk about it at that time rather than commit ourselves to weekly meetings in August. But that's my take on it.
Okay, that's fair. Jeff?
Yeah, I would agree with Selectman Castro. I think weekly meetings in July are appropriate, especially as we see the summer unfold, given our challenges. But I would like to have at least a week off in August, if not two. So I would echo what Selectman Castro just said. Thank you.
Any other comments from the board? All right, Jill, so we're looking at just approving for the meetings for July. Is that what I'm hearing from you guys? You're muted, Jill, or that's
once
good.
a day.
Yeah.
If you want to pick meeting dates in August to cancel, but if something comes up, we can certainly schedule. I don't know about your vacation plans, if there are any, or staycation, but I think it would be helpful to know, if the board is ready tonight, what dates they would like to meet in August and any dates that we can cancel.
Okay. Jeff?
Yeah, that last week of August is typically one that I take off.
Okay, Corey?
I mean, I may or may not, too early to tell, the 11th, I might have a conflict, but, you could probably still have a quorum, so.
So the 25th is the last week in August, or is it the 20?
It is. It's the 25th.
Okay. All right.
Want to knock out, I'm sure, August 11th and August 25th?
Yeah, we can do that, and then if we have anything and we have a quorum, then we can reorganize that. I think that would be fair. Agreed?
We'll play it by ear. Play it by ear.
Flexible.
Okay. Yeah.
And Shauna, email us this week the new schedule for July and August, so we have that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Do we need to make a motion on that, Jill, or are we just?
Yes, please, if you would.
Okay. I need a motion on the dates for our meetings. Jeff?
I move to have Board of Selectmen meetings on Tuesday, July 14th, Tuesday, July 21st, Tuesday, July 28th, Tuesday, August 4th, and Tuesday, August 18th.
Second. It says, and also Tuesdays.
And Tuesday is September 1st, excuse me.
Yes.
Second.
Okay. Second. Any further discussion? All right. Hearing none. Let's take a roll call vote. Dean?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Corey?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Chair says aye. All right. Good. Well, here's some planning there. That's great. All right. That's it for us tonight, guys. So a motion to adjourn. Jeff?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I just want to apologize for being offline there for a second, and I'll catch up with Bob Dugganson on the Fish Pier, et cetera. I missed his update, so I apologize. But I just said my internet went kafooey. My daughter had to come in and reset it, et cetera. So anyway, I apologize. But thank you. Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Chair.
Okay, let's take a roll. Corey?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Dean?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
And chair says aye. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Jill, and Shauna, and the tech team behind us, and Channel 18. Thank you very much, Katie. Everybody have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.